Volume okay?
You sound great, Barb.
Thank you.
That's a yes. I think it's okay. He always just tells me your volume's okay. He never says you sound great, Richard. But whatever,
That
whatever.
might be weird if
Yeah,
he
it
did say
actually
that
is.
guy to guy, it just wouldn't be right.
All right. I'll count us down in three, two, one. Hi, I'm Richard Randall, and welcome to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She's the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of the program. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or to sell real estate, and it does it with Colorado's Real Estate Authority, Barb Schlinker. Barb Schlinker is a retired Navy veteran. Barb is an author. Barb Schlinker is also a pilot. And Barb and her team enjoy all the Colorado and the Front Range have to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice. Whoops, sorry. That's my fault. Hang on. Oh, I see what that was. That's the one when I'm coming back. Yeah. All right. We'll just go. Owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. We air your real estate voice every Saturday. If you can't listen to the entire show, it is available on Barb's site. Barb has the buyers.com, or go ahead and search Barb Schlinker on most of the popular podcast platforms, iHeartRadio, plus the other ones. Every week, the Real Estate Voice covers great information about the housing market and one of the largest assets that people have, that you have, your home. Barb, what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, Richard, initially we're going to talk about the market in general. And one of the things that happened more recently, we went from February through June with the prices going up, up, up again. And then, whoops, in July, we went backwards. And a lot of that has to do with the rates going up. So we'll talk about that and the impact on the market. And then I'm going to have some fun telling stories like about my home inspection nightmares that sellers need to know about before they put their home on the market. And then the next thing we're going to talk about is how do you approach selling a home in a changing market? It's not the same. We've had so many changes in the past few years, starting with COVID, and the world stopped and then it started again. Then we had low inventory. Then we had a huge surge in demand and the boom went on for 2 years. And then all of a sudden, when the rates went up, things went a little bit sideways and the market corrected back down. What's going on now is fewer people can afford homes, right? So there's not as many buyers out there willing to pay top dollar. So you have to be ready when you go on the market. And then the last topic we're going to talk about is full of drama. We're going to be talking about a squatter alert and what can you do about it if somebody occupies your home without permission. And of course, I always love talking about my hot new listings. Richard?
Barbara, I know a lot of people are very concerned about that squatter issue, and I look forward to hearing more about it later in the program. The Fed continues on its path of raising interest rates, and the market seems to have changed a bit. So, Barb Schlinker, what impact does the Fed's increase in those interest rates have on the housing market right now?
Well, Richard, for most buyers, they get a loan and they have to make regular payments on their housing expense. So if the rates go higher, their payment goes higher. And it reaches a point where it's unaffordable if their payment is too high. So every time the Fed ticks the rates up, it really removes some available buyers from the market, especially the first time home buyers. And most of those land in Gen X, millennial, even the Gen Z generation. They're buying homes right now, but if the payments aren't affordable, they can't do it. They're going to have to rent for a while. So basically, the Fed raising the interest rates created this demand destruction that we're seeing right now. Um, so I think what just happened when the Fed raised the last interest rates in the past probably few weeks, we saw the mortgage rates go up. Sometimes it doesn't happen, just so you know. When the Fed raises rates, that has to do with the banks getting money from the Fed. Sometimes the mortgage rates will actually go down, and that's because of supply and demand. The people that are brokering mortgage loans will forecast what kind of loan applications they're going to get. So mortgage rates in general are going to fluctuate every weekday, every hour of the day. And if you can catch a low moment and get a low rate, it's a good thing. So people that are considering making a move right now, they're doing it for lifestyle considerations. Some need a smaller home, some need a bigger home. Some have a home now, and that's the biggest problem we're running into lately, is they are sitting on really low interest rates. You wouldn't believe how many people I talk to, Richard, that say, yeah, my mortgage is 2.25%. Could you imagine that?
Especially compared to where it's been other times. I think they would be shocked to know what a good deal that was. Not as good as it was a little bit ago, but that's a great deal, right?
It's fabulous. It's almost like free money. But let's say they're thinking about making a move. Maybe they need a bigger home. Maybe they're thinking of moving. They have to think twice now that the rates are into the sevens. It means that they can afford less home or they can't afford the home at all. And that's part of the reason why we're seeing low inventory along with low demand. So since probably 2022, I'm showing a chart right now where it's showing this huge surge in interest rates all across the board. And who is buying homes? Well, if you look at charts that just came out from the National Association of Realtors, I would say the biggest demographic of people buying homes right now are the Gen Xers. Those are people that are in the age between 43 and 57, followed right behind the young boomers, 58 to 67. And then the next highest number is pretty even with older boomers and the millennials, older Gen Ys. I don't know. I thought it was Gen Z, but I guess it's Gen Y that's 24 to 32. They're buying about 12% of the homes. So if they can afford it, they're buying. Now, these charts, of course, are nationwide. When you look kind of locally in Colorado, Colorado in general is pretty expensive compared to other markets. I've got a couple of clients right now that are leaving this town because the housing is so expensive. They're moving to places where they can get a brand new home or a newer home on a nice size lot with a 2-car garage for under $100,000. So I understand why they're doing that, especially if they're getting ready to retire. So it's really important that you really carefully think about it. Now, do I think the rates are going to correct back down to 3%? To be honest, no. Maybe down to 5, but I don't think we'll see a 3 in front of an interest rate in my lifetime. A lot of that took place because the Fed was supplying money into the system to buy the rates down by buying bonds. They're not going to do that anymore. So prices have increased at the same time that interest rates have gone up. So we've seen at least a 40% bump. We're seeing at least a 40% bump in home values. And now we're seeing a 100% increase or more than 100% of interest rates. So that really does create a whole lot of cooling off in the market. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the host of Your Real Estate Voice. I'm also the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. I've been here in real estate since 1996. And we're really talking right now about what this increase in interest rates will do to the market, especially going forward. And next up, we're going to be talking about what home sellers should expect to see and what they need to do in order to prepare for this new market condition. I think it will surprise you, Richard.
Barb, we're discussing these Fed rates and the recent increase in them. And I want people to understand that they can get in touch with you by just calling 719-301-3900. You've got all kinds of free reports, actually, that are there. They can look at those and they can get in contact with you and your team. They'll take great care of you. I'm saying Barb and her team will. And she understands it's a fiduciary relationship. More importantly, she's on top of the markets just like you're hearing right now. every day, every week. She's been doing this for a couple of decades. She knows what she's doing. And as I said, we're discussing the Fed's recent increase on the Fed borrowing rate and whether or not it has an effect on the housing market. So, Barb, what should home sellers expect and do in this market situation?
Well, Richard, believe it or not, the market is not crashing at all. A lot of people thought so. In fact, we did, especially in the Colorado Springs area, because last year, between April and December, we saw on average an 11% reduction in home prices. That's a pretty big hit. We don't normally see fluctuations that big, except for 15 years ago during the meltdown. But that all had to do with the Fed raising interest rates faster than they ever have in our history, going from 3-ish% all the way up to over 7 in just a few short months. Now it's stabilized a bit. You may see it go up a quarter, down a quarter. It's kind of the new normal. And I think people are getting used to it right now. So they've just accepted it and now they're finding ways to afford it. Like I'm seeing younger people sit on the sidelines and really conserve and save and then show up with a big down payment when they're ready to buy so they can afford that payment. I think that's great. And hey, if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. We've got some great free reports if you're not ready right now that you could download. If you just click on the green free report button, one of them is named the top tips to sell your house fast and for top dollar. You can download that for free or just call us at 719-301-3900. And honestly, I think if a home seller is getting ready to sell their home right now, the key is number one, you got to pick the agent that's on your team. You should fire an agent that goes out and picks up their smartphone to take pictures of your home. That is unacceptable. Buyers, most of the buyers, what the NAR report said was 99% of the buyers out there are making their decision about what home they're going to go see based on the online pictures. So if the agent is too cheap and too lazy to take decent pictures, move on. I would ask that question if you're going to interview them because first of all, professional pictures are not that expensive. We even get floor plans with our photos, which is people love that. Okay. But you have to have the wow factor to get them in the door. Years ago, when I started, the typical buyer would physically go in and look at 40 homes. They're not doing that anymore. They're doing it in their fuzzy bunny slippers at home or on their phone and making a decision about whether or not they're even going to drive by, let alone go see that home. So you got to hire the agent that knows how to promote the home, prepare the home, and price it right. Richard?
And Barb Schlinker is that person. As you can see, she stays on top of all of the latest trends, all of the latest technology. They don't teach you how to market a home in a real estate class. You either have to learn that on your own or by experience. And that's why you need somebody who is as experienced as Barb. You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you're thinking of making that move, 719 301 3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about home inspection nightmares, when we come back, we'll be talking about home inspection nightmares that home sellers should be ready for before they even go on the market. You don't want to miss that. Okay.
Okay.
I didn't do my show this morning, and I feel like my mouth is just starting to work. We did a pre-recorded show because I had to be at the doctor's office. And all right, did we miss anything, or is that okay?
No, it's perfect. It's
Okay.
fine. I'm just trying to turn up my audio because I can't hear you. I'm getting old. All my pieces parts don't work
I'm going
anymore.
to let you do that. I'm going to grab a 7 Up out of the car.
Narrator output device. Could be that. Maybe I'll just do sound. Hey, Griff, are you still on?
It should be under master volume under the sound tab.
On the computer itself?
Correct.
Or is it on this OBS thing?
I would say just raise your master volume. I keep mine at 75%.
Hear anything? Okay. It's within this computer. It's just like, all right, some young person must have been using it. Settings. Let's try
Yeah, it should be
that.
your Windows and then go to your
There we go. Let's see that. Okay, talk.
1 2 1 2 1
Much
2
better.
1 2.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Now, also, I heard I got to shut down these other browsers so I don't listen to our CRM going off. It's really
Here, I'm just going to get a new mouse, and if
It's
not, I'm
here.
I'm gonna go buy one. I want one that's long enough, that works. I think we finally got the headphones to work. When is Ray gone already?
He's at the transmitter.
But I mean, has he officially left, or a couple more weeks, or a couple more days? Or
He will install the KVOR transmitter before he leaves,
Okay.
which may take a month.
he's the greatest guy in the world.
He is.
We're going to lose one of our engineers here, Barb, and
oh no.
you wouldn't know him, but he's got to be what, 75, maybe 80, maybe
I'm guessing around 87.
87.
Mhm.
You wouldn't know it, and you couldn't ask for a nicer guy in the world. He knows his stuff, and he is so easy to get along with. Life goes on, though, and I actually didn't expect him to retire. His wife died a while back, and it was a pretty big blow to him. So I kind of figured that he would just keep working till he dropped, quite honestly. All right, I've got a new clock.
87 though, I talk to more and more people that are still working,
And it's
into their
voluntary,
retirement
right?
years. Huh?
And it's voluntary. They could retire if they wanted to, or is it, nope, they got to work?
I think it just keeps people sane.
I think so too.
My husband said, if you retired, you'd be so bored. I'm like, well, yeah.
I mean, that's to try for a couple of months, though. That's the problem.
And he's retiring from here. He's staying in radio, so to speak. He works on radio satellite.
Oh.
He's the closest thing you get to a rocket scientist that you would know.
He could rival a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Wow.
He knows all this ham radio stuff.
Yeah.
So if everything goes to hell with a pandemic or God knows,
He loves his
epidemic,
radio telescope.
Yeah, I'm going
He
to
built
his.
one.
I'm going to his house to say, hey, Ray, I'm going to stay here. We can use your radio to talk to people all over the world.
Yeah, that's how you communicate, right?
That's right. All right. I got a new clock, and I am set to go. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. It's the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate. It does it with Barb Schlinker. She's the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, the host of the program, in fact. And Barb, I would think a majority of people selling their home expect that the buyer will go ahead and purchase as is without any repairs. But the reality is most buyers do an inspection. Sometimes it goes well. Other times it can be pretty frustrating for the home sellers. Tell us about it. You've got a lot of experience in this area and you know what it takes to be an inspector.
Well, I tell you, Richard, I could be an inspector and I'm scary with a tool in my hand because there is no qualification in the state of Colorado to be an inspector. Anybody could be an inspector. If it makes you feel any better, they get an online certification. And they put together these reports and they come through and they judge your house and they'll say, well, you need this and you've got to update your smoke detectors and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're way off. I just had one the other day where they said, well, you need to change the light bulbs in the light fixture in the master bedroom. Well, they work. You just got to pull the string to turn it on. That's the kind of stuff that we get on a regular basis. Those are easy to solve, but you really need to work with somebody that knows what is normal and what is not normal on an inspection. The whole purpose of an inspection is for the buyer to do their due diligence to confirm that, okay, the home is in good enough condition that I want to buy it. In many cases, the home seller doesn't know that there might be some hidden defects of the home, and every home has defects, every single one. So the question is whether or not the seller should be responsible to fix it. I just got an inspection objection the other night on one of my listings. Now, this home is older than me, Richard. It's 70 years old, right?
Wow.
And
then you by like 30, 35 years, but the home is 70 years old.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so, does the buyer, and really, really low price sale, does the buyer really expect a new house? Because that's kind of what they asked for. There were 28 things on the objection. We want new windows. We want new smoke detectors. The smoke detectors aren't high enough. We want, it just went on and on. Now, a few of the things were legitimate and realistic, and some were ridiculous.
Barb, let me hang on a second here. Is an itemized list of repairs that come from an inspector, is that just a wish list for things that you want on the home?
Well, what happens is the buyer will hire an inspector. So most buyers don't know an inspector. So typically they're taking a recommendation from somebody the real estate agent might have worked with in the past. I have seen people's father do an inspection. I have seen landscapers do an inspection. I have seen people that weren't qualified that were there for 30 minutes and done, so you never know who you're going to get, and you never know exactly how they're going to judge the home. But what most of them do is they'll set up an inspection and they'll start going through all the systems in the house, and they will send all of the defects that they find to the buyer. So it's up to the buyer to ask for stuff. The buyer doesn't have to ask for stuff. In fact, many times in the contracts, what the buyers do to entice the seller to go under contract with them is they'll put this very, I should say, deceiving statement in the contract that says, we accept the house as is, except for health and safety and plumbing and electrical and structural. So what does that mean, right?
It's a pretty big umbrella.
It's a very big umbrella. And so we see that statement in contracts all the time, which it doesn't mean anything, really. It's up to the buyer to make a formal written request that says, we'll take the house, but we want you to fix this and this and this. And basically, it's a call your bluff kind of statement. It's like, we won't take the house unless you fix these things. And then the seller's normal response is what we call an inspection resolution. Okay, we see your request. This is what we will do, but they may not do everything on the list. If the buyer accepts it, then the contract is moving forward. If the buyer does not accept it, the contract automatically terminates on that resolution deadline, and the buyer gets their earnest money back and the house goes back on the market. So some people use that resolution deadline as a strategy. Let's say they have a backup buyer in their back pocket that may be offered to pay more for the home. That's the best case scenario ever for a seller, because if the buyer asks for anything, they can just go work with the other buyer. All they have to do is ignore the objection. And one more thing, the buyer has to not withdraw their objection because it's still in the buyer's court to stay in contract. They could go in and say, oh, all right, well, if you're going to pull out, Mr. Seller, I'll just cancel my request for all these repairs. That way, I'm sure I'm going to get the house. So there's a lot of strategy that goes on kind of inside baseball, but that's why you need to hire a professional that knows what they're doing, that understands these dates and deadlines and what they mean. I have actually recently had a home seller tell me when they were under contract before, and she had legal background, that the agent didn't explain anything about this to her. And she wanted out of the contract. She had to go research it on her own. So it's unfortunate that, in the real estate industry, it's only 1 month of school and they don't teach you how to serve your clients, how to tell them what to expect, how to explain the contract to them. They don't do any of that. So it's really, really important. Hold on just a second. I don't know why I'm getting that noise here because I turned off that browser. Hold on just a second.
Probably Merrick Garland in the Department of Justice checking in on me to see who I talk to. I'm kind of kidding.
Oh, I got it open twice. Okay, I'm gonna kill that puppy. All right. Sorry about that. What was I talking about, David?
Whoa. DJ, do not leave in the radio show. Let me kill that puppy. Edit that out.
I have it marked.
Okay.
All right, I forgot what I was talking about.
Can you go
Very
back to
distracting.
where she was at the last point? Because I was marking up my script in advance there.
Okay. So I was talking about inside baseball and hiring a contract that an agent that really knows what they're doing. Okay. How to serve your clients, how to tell them what to expect, how to explain the contract to them. They don't do.
So I think it was
How to
what to
explain the contract.
yeah, what to expect.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll start with I'll start with how to explain the contract to them and what the provisions in the contract actually mean. I'll be really honest. When I started, I didn't know it's a 20-page contract, right? And some agents just email it to the client and go, oh, I got an offer. Here's the offer amount. Looks good to me. Sign it. They don't even explain any of it. And I make a point to, because I know people don't do this every day. They want to know exactly what they're getting into. And even though the laws are that they leave it up to the consumer to understand what they're getting into, I think it's a really good idea to educate the client as we're going through the process. Most buyers do at least one inspection. Every once in a while, they'll do more than one. Typically, they'll get an inspection report back from the inspector. They will provide that along with an objection. Okay, here's my report, and Mr. and Mrs. Seller, these are the things that I want you to fix. Okay, great. What happens though is if we send the report with the objection, the seller naturally gravitates to looking at the whole report and everything that's wrong with the house. And that usually upsets them. So I try to meter that so they're not so distressed and they're just focused on what the buyer is asking for. The buyer doesn't have to ask for anything. In fact, the contract says the home is sold as is, where is, with all its faults, right? So why aren't they doing that? I don't know, but they don't. Now, some broken things are legitimate that they didn't know about, and some things are not. But this is not the buyer's time to get upgrades or new stuff. It's just to fix whatever's in place. And I can tell you, I've had all kinds of crazy stuff happen during inspections. I've had the inspectors stick their foot through the ceiling when they were in the attic. I've had inspectors catch the house on fire. I've had inspectors pull toilets without permission and rip the vinyl or not reseat the toilet properly and cause a leak. I have had buyers have a pizza party during the inspection and the seller's out of town. So I get this panicky call from the seller going, what in the heck is going on? Are they squatting in my house? Why is there pizza being delivered to my home? And I'm like, okay, I'll be right over there. And the thing was, they sent me the screenshot on their Ring doorbell. And you have to assume if you're a buyer in somebody else's house, that you're going to be on camera. If you don't, you're just uninformed because most people have cameras. So they sent me the screenshot. It wasn't just one pizza being delivered, it was 4 pizzas and a bag of wings. So no wonder they're asking if they're squatting in their home, right? Just crazy stuff happens. I have had inspectors red tag a furnace. What red tag means is they turn it off. This is in the middle of the winter, freezing cold outside. They turn the furnace off and shut it down and go, this is unsafe. It is emanating carbon monoxide. Well, it wasn't carbon monoxide. It was a brand new furnace. It was the inspector's gadget wasn't working right. I've had inspectors kick my home sellers out of their own homes, and the sellers didn't know any better, so they call us and ask us to go, and I'm like, this is your house. Okay, we'll be right over because we represent our clients, but that should never happen. It's their home. I've had agents not pay attention to what's going on during the inspection. They're out on the front porch talking on the phone, yucking it up. And I had one inspector that actually ran every single faucet inside and outside the house for 4 hours, sucked the well dry, sucked sand up through the well pump into the sink and into the tub. And then the inspector tells the buyer that the well isn't working right, and the buyer terminates. I mean, crazy stuff can happen on inspection. So I tell my sellers, I highly recommend you are there, or if you can't be there, we're going to be there for you. This picture I'm showing you right now, this is an inspector. He was running, this is on that same report, right? He's running the faucet while he's running every other faucet in the house, including the dishwasher and the whole thing. And if you look at his gadget, his little pressure gauge reads 0, but there's a huge spray of water coming out of the hose. And so he's like, yeah, the well's shot. It's just, I mean, it's total insanity. You never know what you're going to expect. Okay. But these are the things that you can do. I have a whole list of things that we'll cover in just a minute, Richard, about what you can do to make sure you pass your inspection. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. I'm the host of Your Real Estate Voice, and we're talking about inspection nightmares and what you can do about it. Richard?
Well, let's take a pause here. We're on page 8, and I've got the thing ready for me to go to. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more pages to go. We're already at 13 minutes. Do you want me to we go ahead and go through this and have DJ edit it down, or would you like me to just stop where we're at and go to the ending part that talks about, you and what we'll be talking about in the next segment?
I'll make it quick.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I got a little wound up on that one.
No, it's good. The pizza. I mean, gosh, I never tire of the pizza party. Are they having a birthday party for their kids? Is it a bachelorette party? All right. So let me go back to, we'll pick it up there. And
he can probably cut some of that down. I lost track of where we were with time, so I'm sorry.
No worries.
What I'm going to cover is just a few minutes. Okay.
You're listening.
Not even a minute. Not even a minute.
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And we're talking about home inspection problems, and home sellers are facing some of these. Barb, what are some other tips our listeners should absolutely know about?
Well, make sure you hire an agent that includes a certified pre-owned home. We do a pre-inspection for our sellers so they know what's coming. So there's no surprises when they're in the middle of moving. And typically the things that most home sellers fear is just what they don't know, right? So if we do a pre-inspection, we've got you covered. You know exactly what to expect. And some of the basics are just roof, electrical, plumbing. Usually structure is not a problem. Some of it's cosmetics, but we can get you ready so you don't have to worry about any of those things. And that's part of what we do. And actually, if you go to my website, barbhasthebuyers.com, I've got a really good report up on free reports called the 11 things that you should know to pass your inspection. So go get that. It's totally free at barbhasthebuyers.com, or give us a call at 719-301-3900. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. This is your real estate voice. And if you're thinking of making a move, selling your home, you want to get the most amount of money out of it, then call Barb 719 301 3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about how to sell a home in a changing market like the one we have now. You're good. I thought you're exactly right. You did that should be easy for DJ. That wasn't all that much more.
Yeah, I mean, there's more I could say for sure, Richard, but
Well, and I tell you what I'm going to do right now. I wrote down here. Remember when we had you come in and be on my show with regard to credit, how you build your credit, what kind of credit
yeah.
you need to buy a home. I'd like to have you come in sometime and do the squatter alert because I talk to a lot, and there's mostly older people, admittedly, but I talk to a lot of people who've seen, one or two of these news episodes where squatters are in their house, they went on vacation, came back, and so give some thought to that. I thought I had a 7-Up in the car. It's empty. I'm going to go grab something out of the machine.
Yeah, DJ, parts of this that I didn't get to that I want to talk about that were experienced, and I might do a whole segment on it. I just didn't get to it this time. Um, Hail problems, hail damage,
Mhm.
and septic. When do you think hail season is going to be over?
We're in Colorado. November? I don't know.
Yeah, I'll talk about that next week. Septic, sewer, septic, a whole one on sewer, septic. Trying to come up with a funny name for that. There was one septic company I used to work with that they had a logo on their truck that said, "We take care of people's crap." But I can't say that on the radio. Well, hopefully that was entertaining, if nothing else, the inspection stuff.
Always.
Got a new clock. How does it do that? Well, because here's the deal. It doesn't have go back to zero. It just says restart. So the other one, I'm sorry, keeps running, keeps running. All right, I'm good, Barb. You have to be good by me taking so much time here. I apologize. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready.
We'll
Wait,
call it.
hold on just a second, guys. I gotta go ask my team to do something. They booked me for a call at noon. I'm like, never really done it.
No, not usually.
Okay. It's never just one thing.
Headphones on. Okay, I'm ready. It looks like you're ready, Barb.
I'm ready.
We'll
Thank you.
count it down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She's the host of the show, and this is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, when home sellers are planning to put their homes on the market, how does a home seller handle a shifting market if it's the right time for them to sell?
Well, Richard, most people don't sell homes very often, and things change all the time. I even had one client tell me, "Hey, we've sold 3 homes in Colorado. Every one went in a different manner." So the laws are relatively similar, but the things that are changing would be how the agent handles the sale. That's one thing. The marketing has been a huge shift because one of the things that we're seeing is that the quality of the imagery has gotten so good that buyers are deciding on their cell phone or on their tablets whether or not they're even going to drive by and take a look at the home. And the agent is the one that's in charge of marketing. Typical buyer actually eliminates homes in less than 1 minute. That's all you have to make that's all you have to make an impression. Otherwise, they're just swiping to the next house. So you really have to make sure that you get that right. You get the pictures right, that the house looks as good as it can, and don't use pictures that make the house look ugly. You don't have to have a picture of every nook and cranny of the house. The whole idea of photos is to attract somebody to come and see it. Okay. Now, some basic pictures absolutely have to be there. The front, the curb appeal is really, really important. The backyard, the view, the living room, the kitchen, the master bathroom, and the master bedroom. Those photos are absolutely critical. And if you miss one, the buyers won't trust the home and they won't go see it. So it's really, really, really important to get that right. One of the services that we offer for free, if we know somebody's planning to sell in the future and they don't know if it's going to happen during the winter months or whatever, and we've got nice, beautiful yards right now, the yards are green and the flowers are blooming, no cost or obligation, we will get permission to come and take pictures of the outside of their home, the front yard, the backyard, while the yard is green. That way, if they do decide to sell, we've got the photos in their best light when they look the prettiest in the summertime. You know, most agents, Richard, spend less than $89 a month on marketing. In fact, some don't even buy business cards. You wouldn't believe how many times I get complaints from my sellers that an agent came into their home with a buyer and they didn't even leave a business card. How would you feel about that?
That is so unprofessional. I mean, you for less than $100, you could go out and do this, and that's for everything they do in their business in one
Right.
month. That could be a couple of houses, and these are houses I assume that are worth at least a couple $100,000 each. I would be embarrassed to be that person.
It happens all the time. I'm just wondering if they quit buying cards. I don't know if the brokers quit teaching just common showing courtesy. I just don't know. But I think it's really unfortunate and it's very frustrating because if I'm the listing agent, I've got to take the bullets of the complaints, and the agents, of course, will never admit. I had one recently, there was a showing, and the next buyer that was going to see it wouldn't go in because the front door was left wide open. Why did that happen?
Wow.
Just crazy stuff that happens all the time. So if you are thinking of selling your home, one of the things that's absolutely critical is that you hire the agent that knows how to help you prepare your home for sale. right? Not everything has to be moved, not everything has to be cleared out, but the buyer has to see pictures that make them visualize themselves living there. So if it's full of clutter, we have to find a way to either erase or pack away the clutter in certain places. Typically, we don't take pictures of the inside of garages. We don't take pictures of the inside of closets. We don't take pictures of unfinished basements just because they don't photograph well. Now, I did look at a garage yesterday that was spectacular. Now, that one we will take pictures of because it was so pretty. We'll probably take pictures of it with the RV in it and with it out, because that is a marketing thing. But most garages are not really an attraction point. And if you have less than a minute to make an impression with the buyer, those first 6 to 10 pictures have to be absolutely spectacular. And that's part of what we do. The next step is promotion. That means making sure those pictures are up, they're in the right order, and the rooms look really, really good. That includes professional photography, drone photography. I put one house on the market this week. It's on a lovely cul-de-sac. It has a beautiful backyard, and we picked the best front picture, followed by the best backyard picture, and followed by the rest of the key rooms. And guess what happened? Day one on the market, the buyers are calling, going, oh my God, can I get in early? Can I get in? I want to see it. If it's the one, we're going to make an offer. If it looks anything like the pictures, I got to see it, right? So that tells me we promoted it properly and we priced it properly, because most home sellers have no idea who is eliminating their home based on the online presentation. But if you're not sure about it, then just have a family member look at your pictures and look at them critically and be brutally honest and ask them, if you saw a picture of this home and you were looking for a home, would you come to see mine? And tell them to tell you if you see a picture that just doesn't make the home look more attractive. We know that a majority of the buyers won't go see a home if they don't like the pictures. Now, that's completely different to real estate 15 or 20 years ago, because back then the pictures were not good enough in order for a buyer to decide whether or not they should even go see it, right? They were more pixelated. There weren't as many. Many of the homes just had one outside picture and that's it. Well, now it's become a screening thing for the buyer. If they don't like the pictures, they're not going to come and go see it. And then marketing is absolutely critical, that you are the best home on the block. And that includes preparation, making sure you get ready to get those pictures ready to go. Staging. Staging doesn't always mean bringing in furniture. Sometimes we can do it electronically. Making sure you get your curb appeal right, though, absolutely is critical. Professional photography is critical. Virtual tours are important. Floor plans, talking house ads, drone, all that stuff is really, really critical, because we don't want the buyers to pass the home by online. We want them to come and see it and make their best offer. That's our goal. And really, there's a lot of real estate agents, I hate to say this, but they just don't know how to do it. We are experts at this. When we meet with a home seller, we take a look at their home. We show up prepared with all the information about the market for similar homes like theirs. We'll give them tips on what to do and what not to do to get their house ready for sale. We'll make recommendations, and then we'll help them prepare for that very critical photo day. So according to the National Association of Realtors, buyers pay anywhere from 3 to 5% more money for a home that is staged. And so we include staging services. Here's a couple pictures of homes or rooms that I found in the listing service. These were marketed homes that weren't properly staged. So what I'm looking at is a whole bunch of lace doilies and ugly, colorful blankets on the furniture, toys on the floor, too much furniture in the room, curtain pulled behind the window unit air conditioner. I mean, the whole thing is like unappealing, basically. Don't you think so, Richard?
There was a time and a place for doilies, and I'm sure they were really cool, and your grandparents or great grandparents had them, but not so much now.
not so much. This was another marketing photo where the dishwasher's missing. There's a giant bag of dog food and all these other groceries on the counter. It's like, really? Oh my God, you wonder why this isn't selling. Here's a picture of a house where this was a dining room. So for their family, maybe that was cool to get that black paint and paint the wall black so you could write chalkboard drawings on the wall. But for marketing purposes, it is not a good thing. You want to repaint that wall and neutralize it because otherwise the buyers cannot see themselves living there. Here's another example of a properly staged home. Now, with this home, we did not bring in furniture. All this furniture that you see in the room was digitally inserted. Do you think it looks real, Richard?
It looks at, I couldn't tell a difference in the world. I mean, whoever does it, whatever your staff member is, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean they have the technology to make this happen. So you want to make sure you hire the agent that knows exactly how to create demand. Preparation is so important because you want to avoid buyers eliminating your home online. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the host of Your Real Estate Voice. I'm also the owner and employing broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb has the buyer's team. And next up, we're going to talk about the absolute secret sauce of how you get the most money when you sell. I think it will surprise you. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. She's the host of the program, and you can always reach her at 719 301 3900. We're talking about how to get homes sold in a changing market like the one we have right now. Barb, what are some things a home seller should do to get their home sold?
Well, number one is great pictures. If you have less than a minute to make an impression, that's number one. Get prepared and get those great pictures ready to go. Because it's so important for the buyers to first fall in love with your home online, and then they're actually going to physically go. Or like just yesterday, I talked to somebody that bought a home sight unseen, but they had their family go look at it, right? And the family went and saw it and said, yes, you should make an offer on this right away. It looks perfect. Okay. Professional photography after the staging is done. We do all kinds of marketing, drone video, whatever it takes to get the buyer to come look at the home, because you want to make sure you hire the team that knows exactly how to avoid repelling buyer searches online. And many home sellers think that we show absolutely everything in the home. That's not true. There are some things that might be attractive that are not commonly shared, but like a garage that's really, really pretty that has the finished floor and all that. But the key is to make sure that you get all the stars aligned right, not just with photos, but also with pricing. Now, it used to be years ago, you would price a little bit high for negotiating room. Those days are over. If you do not price a home, especially in this changing market, realistically, even on the low side of realistically versus optimistically, you're not going to get an offer. You may, or you might, it might take a long time, right? You might have to weed through a whole bunch of showings before you actually get a decent offer. But if you price the home right, the chances of it selling faster and for top dollar are much more likely. Here's one that we put under contract on Memorial Day where he wanted more money, but he priced it right. The similar sales were between 645 and 7. He priced it 649. We had 40 people attend the open house. We had 6 offers, and we played mom against dad and ended up selling that home for 50,000 over asking price in just 1 week. That was doing everything right. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. She's also the host of the program. And if you are thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719 301 3900, or go ahead and just visit the website. Easy to remember, barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about squatters, the rules and what you can do about it, plus Barb's hot new listings. You don't want to miss any of that. Very good, says me.
All right, the next one. Oh my God, it's going to be controversial.
Oh my God, you love this.
I do.
I'm gonna have to have it some more.
Oh, it's a little tricky because we're wading into legal land and we can't practice law without a law license, you know? So I'll have to have a few caveats put in there. Talk to a lawyer. If you have a squatter, talk to a lawyer. But I still might share some stories. Like I have one guy told me that he got his friends to just kick in the door and get him out in the middle of the night. Can't do that. It's
Some of the stories that you tell, and
it's unlawful.
they can't believe it. I mean, they can't believe how easy it is to just go out and be an inspector. They can't believe that you go to real estate class, you get your license, you didn't have 10 minutes of how to sell a home when that's the whole object of it, right? To buy or to sell a home, that's the entire object of it. They didn't spend part of a day or a couple of days or whatever doing it. People are stunned. I mean, honestly stunned. But I like it because not only does it remind them to call you, but it reminds them to be very careful of anybody else. And the way to do that is by calling you. Because these other people aren't exposing this stuff, Barb, right? I mean, you're the one person who's telling the truth about this stuff.
I have my clients so terrified of inspections, you wouldn't believe it. They're like, you're going to be there and I'm going to be there. I'm like, yeah, whatever. That's fine. So,
I should
okay.
probably go out there and do a couple of inspections just to prove it to people. Buy a little hat and go to Home Depot,
Oh,
get
yeah.
a turkey baster and a couple of other things and a thermometer. Well, it looks like this wall is probably about 3 degrees warmer than it ought to be. There could be some sort of a problem here. I don't know. It might spontaneously combust.
Put together some diodes.
Yeah,
That just
yeah.
light up.
Yeah.
Warning, warning.
Yeah. And have it go off. Oh, yeah. We got to fix this. I'll be right back.
All right. This could happen.
So, some okay. Yeah, that's a lot less time. They're gonna do their, they should be moving today. They're gonna do the, if I don't write it down, it won't happen.
I'm telling you, that is absolutely likewise.
And I'm like, oh my God, I still have to remember it, which is worse.
You know what? I used to be able to go through life and I could just remember stuff. And I don't know, somebody told me I was ADD a while back, and I'm like, okay, I remember that. And he was saying, just write everything down. I should have listened to him at that point. I didn't. Only in the past, like the doctor today. Normally, do you want a reminder card? I usually say, no, I'll just write it down here. I write it on a piece of paper. Then I lose the piece of paper and I have to call them back and say, I've got an appointment sometime. Could you remind me? Today, I took the reminder card.
Yeah, I mean, that's insane. I need lots of sticky notes and stuff. And we have this very
who tickle you a little bit too, right? I mean, that's what we called it in law, where the secretary would send you a tickle to tell you you've got to be in court at 2:00 on Wednesday or something.
Yeah. We're getting there with our CRM. It's getting better. I'm still learning how it works. So it's going to be really cool when it all works like it's supposed to work. But in the meantime, we've got humans involved. So
it is
deal with it.
I think in the beginning of all of this technology, it was probably the technology was the problem, but I think you're right. More often than not, it just exposes the human weakness. All right, I got a clock, I got a script. I'm good to go. How about you, Barb?
I'm ready. This should be fun. How much time do I have, DJ?
How much time do you need?
12 hours, 12 minutes. I don't know. I think about 12 minutes, right?
Everything has a price.
All right. Oh my God. Yeah, and the radio stations are going, wait, I have this 1 hour show. We got a baseball game coming up here. All right, here we go. And we'll do it in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Real Estate Voice. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. It's the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell a home. In real estate, Barb Schlinker is the person. She's the go-to. She's the owner and the host of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb, I've heard you tell stories. I don't like any of that. Let's do it again. I lost my track at one point, and then I just tried to wing it, and it didn't wing so well. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, I've heard you tell stories about people gaining access to people's home during this selling process? I know there are some laws about squatters. What can you tell us about unauthorized home occupants or squatters?
Well, it's interesting when you actually I did some research on this, Richard, and there's like a definition and there's a lot of legal stuff about what they call squatters' rights and how eventually they can own the home if they're there for 18 years, which I don't think any homeowner would let that go on that long. But I have had personal experiences with unauthorized occupants in the house. And the problem is it criminal trespassing or are they squatters? You don't know, right? And typically, the way the police force and the county handles it is it's a civil problem. The more people that I've talked to that have had what they call squatters inside their house, these are people that are not the tenants. They don't have any authorization to be in this home, but they're in there. You just can't show up with your two big buddies and throw them out. You can't do it. There's a legal process. And even if you do call the sheriff's going to tell you, you have to go get a court order in order to get them out. Now, in 2018, they changed the laws for certain cases so they could get them out sooner than the standard eviction process. Standard eviction process, and just so I put a caveat on this, I am not a lawyer. I did go to college, but I'm a Navy veteran. I flew airplanes for one glorious year. I worked as an air traffic controller. I've got that kind of background, and I've been a real estate professional since 1996, but I am not a lawyer, okay? What I do know from having rental properties and having customers and clients that had experiences of unauthorized occupants in the home, there's a legal process that you have to go through. And what it is you have to post a notice, okay, that they need to get out, and you can go down to the county courthouse and get your hands on that for free, or you could hire a lawyer to process, quote, an eviction. And then you have to go to court and get a judgment for possession. Now, with a tenant, it's one thing if they're not paying. With an unauthorized occupant, they changed the law in 2018 that theoretically the process goes a little bit sooner. So you actually have to serve the person or persons that's unauthorized in the home. And then there's a court date. So they're given an opportunity to go to court and object as to whether or not they could be squatting in your home. So forgive me for using that term, but I've seen it happen too often. So let me tell you a story. Last year, I had a listing in which the owner had passed away. So I had met the owner before he passed away, and I kept him in my database. He got an annual calendar from me, and he had the calendar up on his refrigerator. And after he passed away, his family from out of state, from Arkansas, came to the house to help him with his estate. And there's a whole process for that. If you die without a will, then the family has to get assigned to be the executor of the estate. So legally, that takes a few weeks just to get that done. Okay. Once that was done, then we cleaned up the house, we took pictures, we listed it, it went on the market. And the family from Arkansas turned the utilities on in this home. Now we're going into the fall months, right? And so utilities are on, and an agent shows up to show the home thinking she is going to be at a vacant house. And these guys answer the door and they say, "Oh, the owner let us stay here for a while." And so she called the office, said, "Hey, what is going on? I thought this home was vacant." And we're like, "It should be vacant." And so we called the police. Nobody came. Why do you think nobody came, Richard?
Well, because apparently there's no jurisdiction, but the real reason, I think, is that they're so busy with major crimes that they hardly have enough forces to deal with things like this.
It's a civil matter, right?
Yes.
So there's a big manufactured home in an area where there aren't any other manufactured homes. It was on a foundation. I'm going to give you a reason why I'm telling you that. Beneath the foundation was a big, deep crawl space. Okay. And so when I went over there, I had just happened to be in the neighborhood. I said, I'm going over there. My husband's like, don't go over there. You're not the police. I'm like, no, this really makes me mad, you know? So I get to the house. Whoever was in the home had kind of scattered like a bunch of rats. But one guy came back up to me and he's like, oh, ma'am, the most valuable thing in my life is in that house. It's a leather jacket and I have to have it. I promise I won't come back, if you just put it outside and I'll come get it. And I said, all right, but you better come get it and you better not come back because the cops are coming. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So I went and got his coat. I put it outside. Then I looked in the house. They were so comfortable. They were taking showers. In the master bedroom, I found needles.
Oh
In,
God.
in the cabinets, I found a big jug of some kind of red looking chemical. They had food in the refrigerator. So I'm thinking, what do you think I'm thinking at this point, Richard?
Probably meth or doing something to create illegal drugs.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, this isn't good. So I thought, okay, they're out. Let's clean it up again. We put it back on the market. And 2 weeks later, they break in the house again. Right. And I'm like, oh God, okay. So my husband's like, nope, you're not going. I'm sorry. This is crazy. And I finally I agreed with him. I am not the police. And I don't have the resources to police this situation or put protection around it, right? And so about trying to get a hold of the family, what I didn't know was what had happened during this week is that the guy that was the executor passed away. And so now the utilities are in his name. He's in another state. And I get a phone call from Colorado Springs Utilities going, oh my God, the water usage is off the scale at this house because my sign is still in the yard. So they're
Right.
calling me, of course, right? So I call Colorado Springs Utilities and they told me the scope of how much water was being used. Let me just make a visual picture for you.
All right.
Rectangle home, probably about 2,000, 1,800 square feet, sitting on a 6-foot crawl space foundation. What they had done was cut the copper plumbing out of the bottom of the house. And that whole crawl space filled up with water, so much so it was coming out the sides above the basement foundation. And so I'm
And
like,
they did this, and apparently they did this to steal the copper, to sell it, and didn't care that you're going to end up with that much water. Because I thought maybe they just turned on all the faucets to be jerks about it, but they were stealing copper to sell it.
no, they weren't too bright because then they don't have functioning plumbing anymore, right?
Oh,
So,
even worse.
right. So Colorado Springs Utilities goes over there and these guys are still there, right? So I talked to him. He goes, well, I did shut off the water, but I didn't lock it because those are the rules. If there's an occupant in the house, you can't lock them out of water. So he could just go right back over there and turn it on. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I did get a hold of one of the family members. One of the family members, I told them to let the widow know to please, please cut the utilities off at that house. Then they won't have a warm place to sleep because I couldn't do it. My name was not on the account, and it didn't matter how much I flopped on the floor and asked CSU to take care of it. They're not allowed to do that. It's whoever's on the account has the power to shut it off. And then I told him, I said, look, I visually observed drug paraphernalia in the home. We don't know if they're doing meth. Now that I know that they've filled the crawl space up with water, God knows what other damage took place. What little equity that might have been in that house probably is gone. If I were you, I would let this whole thing go. I'm sorry, but it's just not going to work. And ultimately, the bank foreclosed on that home. But that is like the worst nightmare if you're a homeowner, especially if you're selling a property that's vacant. So you don't want anybody to get access. And the best way to handle this is basically to make sure that you've got a security system in the home. So I have one of my colleagues actually is she does a lot of flipping. She became a real estate agent, so I didn't get to list her homes anymore, but she's probably the most amazing designer. Like she could take a wall out and make the house look amazing. But the problem is when she put them on the market, if she put the appliances in, there were several cases of the appliances getting stolen because the house was vacant. So she started buying those Simply Safe systems and putting those up in the house. So you can do that if you have a vacant home, and that might be enough to scare them away. Let me tell you another story. I had another client, by the way, my name is Barb Schlinker with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb Has the Buyers team. Go to barbhasthebuyers.com or call us at 719-301-3900. You ready for one more story, Richard?
I think they're pretty creepy, to be honest with you, but give me one more.
So one more. Recently, I had a home seller that basically had sold the home, had negotiated for possession after, and planned to do an estate sale after he left the state. The problem is he handed the keys over to the estate sale company. Now, we contractually have, so part of our system is we offer to clean the home before the buyer takes possession. So here we are, possession day. We show up, and lo and behold, we find out that the workers for the estate sale had been sleeping in the home, not for one night. There was pizza and wings that were all dried up in the refrigerator, along with a whole bunch of beer in the trash cans full of beer. So they had been there for a while. Here's the problem with that. What if they are doing meth, right? And I handed the keys to the buyer. Buyers weren't upset about this. I was beside myself about it. I said, you need to change those locks, at least, because they were living in this more than $1 million home, right, for weeks and weeks. I wouldn't do that. I don't recommend that. I'm not real fond of the whole estate sale process unless you're there and you control it. So that's my story. Be super, super careful. And that's part of what we do. So if you have to remove squatters, it is a legal process. Call a lawyer, find out what to do, because it's not like you can just show up there with guns ablaze and kick them out. You can get in a lot of trouble for doing that. And if you want to hire somebody that knows how to protect your assets, that's what we do. We help home sellers all the time. And we don't get just the 3 P's right. We get the 4 P's right: protection, preparation, pricing, and promotion. So if you want to contact us, go to barbhasthebuyers.com or give us a call at 719-301-3900. Richard?
This is one of the many reasons that I recommend you. A trusted Navy veteran, when people are thinking of buying or selling their home, you've seen it all. I'm Richard Randall, and you're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can always reach her at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Barb, favorite time of the show, lightning round, hot new listings up and down the Front Range.
Here we go. Escalante Court, priced at $395 in Pueblo West. Beautiful home on Rock Creek, priced at $595. Amazing home in Woodland Park on Fullview at $389. That one already sold. Native Circle at $535. Wonderful place. We're actually featuring this one open today, 11 to 12. 4666, wonderful place. It is a wonderful home. We have a beautiful Victorian on Rocky Heights, and there's plenty more. So to find out all about our homes and our coming soon homes, which we have 2 coming up in Briargate and 2 coming up in the Powers Corridor, go to barbhasthebuyers.com to get insider access to off-market properties. Richard?
You've been listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker, the founder and the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of the program. And if you're thinking of making a move, just call her at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. And remember, you can see replays of the show on Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Schlinker, or you can just listen to the podcast if you only caught a part of it here on all of the popular podcast platforms: Apple, iHeart, Spotify, many others. Thank you for listening. And to reach out to Barb, call her at 719-301-3900. Barb, great time talking with you. We'll talk to you soon.
It was a pleasure. Have a great weekend.
I got to tell you, you know what? I was thinking, I hate to be thinking like a lawyer, but had I represented some of those